Sup? How you doing? It's Friday. It's good to be here, I guess. Yeah. Friday. What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's Friday. I'm freaking out. Oh my god, I'm about to lose my mind. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you're doing fantastic. Let's say what's up. What's up to everybody in the chat. We've got Frank Dominguez and Jake D663 and Mikey Fishy. Alyssa Bentley, Mirdu Singh, Alana Suki, Michael Sarr, Steve Baratich, Jedediah Guil. I don't know how to say your last name, Jedediah. I'm sorry. Dave's Aquariums, Big D Smoke, and Zombie Drummer, and Daniel Velez, along with Carrie Habercorn. Carrie Habercorn rounds out the list of the people that typed their comment in the live chat. And that's the end of this song. Yay! Anyhow, what's up, everybody? It is a glorious, sunshiny Friday out here in the Western Washington varietal of where I live. I live in the Western Washington Variety Show. That's where I live. And anyhow, this week has been astoundingly heated, bro. It's been heated, bro. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those weeks I try to remind people, beware. Beware of the temperature in your fish tank, because it get too heated, you could have a serious problem on your hands that could become a compounding issue. The compounding issue generally comes from raise in temperature, lower in oxygen, possible breathing, possible death. Then the death leads to ammonia, which leads to more ammonia, which leads to possibility of another death, blah, blah, blah. And you've got yourself a spiraling, out of control disaster. Très disaster on your hands. And just a reminder, let me find that little clip-on fan. Clip-on fan that I found the other day. I literally have a fan blowing on me right now. It's not this one, but we got we got a couple of these the other day. Now they run off of, and when I say the other day, Vicky bought some of these for a camping trip that we knew it was going to be like 100 degrees out every day. And I was messing around with one of these earlier today, and it reminded me, oh yeah, for currently $12.74. It has a clip-on fan, comes with a battery, blah, blah, blah. It's USB charged. You can plug it in USB, and I think that's a reasonable price to pay, in my mind, to cool off your tank a little bit in this hot heat. Evaporative cooling, in my opinion, is the best, easiest way to cool off your tank. So that would be it. I do have to give the FTC warning that that Amazon link I just posted into the chat we are an affiliate. So if you click on that link, you go to Amazon, you'll contribute to the well-being of this channel by creating a advertising fee. Hopefully that explains it to you in a way that you understand. Let me dumb it down for people like myself. That would be, you click on the link, it gives me money, blah, blah, blah. Right? That makes sense, right? Scooby-Doo, blah-blah-blah, la, la, la. There we go. Moving on. Anyhow, that fan is cool. It runs on the 18650 battery, which is time-tested battery that just works forever. They're easy to charge. The chargers are super cheap. You can get those batteries just about anywhere. Like, for instance, some of my camera equipment, my gimbal, runs off those exact same batteries, that same size battery. So it's not that rare of a battery or anything crazy like that, and works pretty well. Mirdul Singh literally has one of those blowing air at me right now. The clip was also strong enough and wide enough to attach on the rim of a tank. Yeah, I think that they're a worthwhile fan. They're not going to crazy blow air all around a room or anything like that, but just that directional fan works fantastically. And they're battery operated, so you can take it out and move it around, and you don't need to have it plugged in. I think that's the big advantage in my mind. Like, we had them clipped onto the side of our tent. So when we're asleep, you could just have a little bit of airflow directed on you, keep you cool, because when you're out there in the wilderness, man, and it be super hot, there is no AC, there is no going inside, there's nothing like that. So you can utilize that for camping like we did, and I think it would work great for the aquariums. My fish room, I have a slightly different situation going on in there that is much more costly, much more laborious via dehumidifiers, and the room is like super insulated. I think I have the room insulated at like, I think R42 or something like that. It's not R60. It's not like Alaska thick insulation or anything like that, but it's pretty robust. So the temperature stays in there pretty consistent just by venting with like a bathroom. I have a bathroom fan I installed in there. It's venting through that when it needs to vent, and then the dehumidifier is keeping the humidity down in there, which if the temperature goes up and the humidity in the air is low, some of the water will evaporate and will help keep the tanks. So it's a little more involved. It's definitely more costly. Just in case anybody asks what dehumidifier I have, dehumidifier, all of this stuff is posted in my Amazon store. I do have like an Amazon store that has like, I don't know, 100 things in there or something of just stuff that I've bought that I know is legitimately a reasonable piece of equipment and has lasted for me. So sometimes people go in there and there's a camera lens in here, and I'm like, I bought that camera lens, I used it, it worked good. There's like hiking shoes, there is some other random stuff in my Amazon store just because I've literally purchased them and used them, and they worked for a good amount of time. I'm trying to find the exact humidifier, which I think they redesigned it. Like, it looks different now, so that's probably why I'm not recognizing. Where is it? Oh, maybe they don't sell it on Amazon anymore. Oh no, actually Amazon, look at this, Amazon Basics bought it, because that's literally the one that I have. I have the 50 pint one. Now it's called Amazon Basics, apparently, which is pretty common these days, as we see how many giant corporate conglomerations just buy up each other and stuff and then put a new name on it. But yeah, that's the one I have. But as you can see, like, $210 versus a $12 fan, that's considerably different, and a lot more work to install it and do all of those things if you are not already set up, to do that. Because a dehumidifier is going to, by dehumidifying, you're going to end up with some water, you know what I'm saying? So there's more than just plug it in and go away kind of situation. Texas Andy says, never had any deaths, but I just installed AC to cool the garage fish room. I actually had to install heaters again. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely stuff to take into consideration. Obviously, it depends on the stocking in your tank. If you have stuff that is super tropical, generally it can do that. It can deal with the higher temperatures and things like that. But you have to think like a large body of water, even in the Amazon, right? The Amazon temperature throughout the year isn't going through these crazy temperature fluctuations. So even when it is summertime ish, whatever, like there's not really, it's not like one of the days is 120 degrees and the next day is 65 degrees, So that's kind of the things to bear in mind, that yes, the tropical fish and stuff like that can handle the higher temperatures and the swings and stuff. I try to eliminate those altogether. So even if like optimal temperature would typically be for whatever fish was, say, 78 degrees, maybe I keep it at 64, or not 64, 74 degrees. So it's a couple degrees lower than whatever the optimal nonsense you find on the internet is. But I do try to keep it consistent so that at least they're just living and navigating in the same zone. You know what I mean? So there's not like these big temperature fluctuations, which you really want to avoid that. I've had tanks that I've done ick treatments in, and I've gone really high with the temperature, with salt and all that to treat ick, and it is possible. It's just not something I could recommend to somebody and be like, yeah, just let it run wild. Let's see what happens, And then if something bad happens, then it's like, well, you gave me bad advice, and like, I'm really not in the place where I try to give out bad advice. You know what I'm saying? So it's a recommendation that I would give to myself because it's something that I do. So that's why I would try to stick with that. Karen Segal, I hope it's Segal. I'm not sure how to say your last name. Asks, what am I drinking? I am drinking out of my mason jar, which is it's a classic Care. This one actually is a Care brand, not the Ball. I normally search for the Ball. That's a good way to get into trouble. Somebody gonna capture that audio. I normally search for the Balls. I normally search for the Ball mason jars, but this Care really caught my eye at some crappy thrift store we were at some point in time. And this is coffee that is instant coffee. I always think like people are surprised that like I drink so much coffee, but I drink a lot of like instant coffee and stuff. And they want me to like up my game and buy some fancy coffee. But you guys know I'm a guy that is in recovery, which means hold on, where's my sobriety calendar? I don't know where my calendar is. I've over 6 years sober. I spent many years. I think we did the math on it, and it was like not quite 20 years. It was like 18 years. But a lot of those years, I worked 2 full-time jobs the whole entire year in kitchens, running kitchens, being a chef, working my way up from, dishwasher, busboy, all the way up to head chef of some big restaurants and stuff. And I will tell you, if you work in a kitchen, you are not getting fancy coffee. You are not getting the beginning of the pot, maybe in the morning, but you're always drinking the old burnt coffee that's just around in the kitchen, So I have grown accustomed to drinking burnt coffee, to drinking instant coffee, to drinking. My favorite thing is the Vietnamese 3-in-1. 3-in-1 coffee is my. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I was saying that right. It's the Vietnamese 3-in-1, the Cafe Pho Ha Tan. Totally saying that wrong. By Vina Cafe, which I'm probably saying that wrong too. But let's see. Is this... Well, this is weird. What is it? 1 pound pack of 5. Well, this is super confusing, but either way, this is the instant coffee that I buy. It is a Vietnamese brand, and here's the link to it, just so you guys can check it out. You literally heat up like 4 ounces of water and dump one of these in there and mix it up. And it's got like a little bit of sugar. It's got like dry creamer, powdered creamer in it, and instant coffee. And it's literally like it's like an espresso just ready to go. You don't have to like deal with any of that crap. You know what I'm saying? So, I just spent so many years like drinking crappy burnt coffee and all that kind of stuff that I eventually was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Instant coffee generally has a lot less acidity in it, so that's technically in some weird, bizarro sort of pseudoscience way better for your, your enamel in your teeth, right? Which we want to keep our teeth good. Although I will say, the filter on this camera does not make my teeth look very white. Because this gum is bright green. This gum is like super bright green. I wonder if I get it. I don't know. It won't focus. But so gives you an idea that my teeth aren't as crazy yellow as they look in the camera when I do that. But yeah, it keeps the enamel in your teeth doing a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to kind of drink all day and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Karen says, Jesus, it's 288 ratings, all 5-star. Good choice, I must say. Yeah, this is kind of the go-to. The Vina Cafe is like this instant coffee mix. This is like the most popular one that I know of in the area that I live in, right? In Western Washington, we have I don't know if I would say large Asian population, but we have a pretty big Asian population here. It's hard for me to really compare. I've never lived in Alabama or Arkansas or North Carolina. I'm not 100% sure, but I've looked at the demographics, and we do have a fairly high, on the number scale demographically of Asian population, and all of the Vietnamese people that I know are like, yeah, that's the super popular one, So I do a fair bit of shopping in they're Asian grocery stores. I mean, I don't know if I can think of a better way to put it. Like some of them are, Korean, some of them are Vietnamese, some of them are kind of Thai, but that's generally where I'll do probably a shopping trip like once a month normally. Although the coronavirus, COVID-19 madness going on right now, I really haven't been doing that much shopping except for just kind of bulk stuff, here and there. But I do love going to those grocery stores. They have a lot more variety as compared to the normal American stores for somebody like me that has experienced a lot of these products. Like, for instance, if I go to a kind of a traditional American grocery store, like they don't have fish sauce there. And if you were to ask somebody, they would be like, I don't know what that is. And you'd be like, all right, I gotta go elsewhere, But if I'm at, like an Asian grocery store, I'm like, where's the fish sauce? They're like aisle 15 or whatever. And then I end up going over there and they have like 20 brands of it. I recognize 10 of them, and I end up buying one that I've never seen before because I'm like, I want to try this one. So yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I've definitely I've definitely never really shied away from sharing some of my politics, especially on this channel. And I consider myself somebody who is definitely not the most cultured person in the world, but I am somebody that puts a lot of effort and investment in respecting other cultures from the world and understanding that all of the people of the world, we're all essentially the same. And the reality is, like, when you learn the language of another from another country, like Spanish, for instance, and start to meet people from Mexico, people from Guatemala, people from Ecuador, people from Venezuela, blah, blah, blah. You start to realize, like, these are all the same people with the same basic values that everybody else has, and they're all just trying to do their best and stuff. And so that's the way that I've always kind of operated myself. And as a chef, I've always been interested in the food side of it. And I do hope someday to be able to maybe impart some more of that. I don't know how I am personally going to accomplish it. I've never really encapsulated in my mind like how I'm going to do that. So, and that's a totally rambling tangent, but that's kind of the reason for doing rambly tangent live streams like this. And I think people have been a little confused as to, over the years they've come to this live stream and they've been like, I don't know what's going on. I want you to only talk about fish stuff only forever. And, but that's kind of the reason I like to do these long format stuff is being able to kind of ramble and go on these tangents. And I want to say thanks to all of our sponsors real quick. Look at that segue. That's a segue for the ages. Just a terrible segue. Sorry. It's the best I can do today. It's been 100 degrees out and I'm super tired. We had more YouTube members on Monday, but now we have less, and we will put the number down to where it goes, 91 YouTube members. Big shout out. Thank you to all the consistent YouTube members helping sponsor this show and this channel. I think there's been a little bit of a confusion takeaway from some people that are like, man, you gotta do X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, I don't think there's value here or whatever. But I tell you, the YouTube members and the patronizers, people on Patreon, are the people that are like, yeah, I want to sponsor the live show, which is amazing to me. And they're like, oh, I want you to keep doing that, and that's what I want you to do. It's almost consistently like what I hear from people. But the reality is, like, even the produced content I make on this channel is from these sponsorships. Otherwise, I would not be able to do it. I was going through the analytics, which is just the stupidest conversation to have while on YouTube or whatever. But the reality is you guys outshine whatever advertising money we could make ever by a significant amount. And that's my thing. So thank you, everybody, for being members and stuff. And today is Friday, so what we normally do on Fridays is we go through our Patreon posts. Now, we happen to have only one Patreon post this week from Mr. Glenn Tookshire, which I know how to say his last name now. After having gone through the how-to. I've gone through the how-to. I know how to say Tookshire now. And it does take me time on occasion to figure out these things and learn how to say stuff live on the air, which is always the weird extra little monkey wrench thing thrown in there. Is like, you're confident. You have this confidence in you that you know how to say whatever it is that you're going to say. And then all of a sudden it goes away, right? Your ability to actually pronounce a thing when you're live, and I think it's weird. But that's the life sometimes, Mm-hmm. Let me type something in here before I get to Glenn. Before I get to Glenn's thing. Anyhow. Where did that go? All right, there we go. I had to fix... What? Okay, there we go. YouTube's trying to tell me something happened. All right, so Glenn Tookshire sent this in. It says, alrighty, it's summer and the temperature climbs in southern Alberta, as you guys know, out there in Canada. Sometimes it gets hot. It's not... I find it's so difficult to understand that it actually gets hot in Canada sometimes, but... I do realize I have been to Alaska when it was 102 degrees outside, so I do know that it technically does get hot up north sometimes. Let's also remember that the climate change is happening. I think we're seeing a record heat wave in Europe again, although the veracity of that claim is very, very weak because I haven't really looked into it because I've been researching for a bunch of other videos and all sorts of whatever. I digress. Today, my thermometer showed 37 degrees Celsius. It has happened every one of the 60 years I have lived here. I have never seen it go above 43. The house temperature rose all the way to a blistering 27 degrees, so needless to say, the water in the aquariums warms up. This heat wave thing is short-lived, and the max temperature is only for a few hours. I made a very simple and quick way to keep fish in the tank, but to let some of the heat out. Basically, 4 sticks nailed together with a piece of vinyl, is that a word? Vinyl window screen attached. It does not look pretty, but it does seem to help. And I would say this is pretty much the best little do you have some scraps lying around kind of situation. I've made quite a few things out of window screen. I actually have some big rolls of stainless steel window screen that I think Home Depot or somebody like that was discount clearing it out, and I just bought the big roll because it was like $4 for this stainless steel screen, and I've just been cutting bits off of it for what feels like ages now. I know I've had it for, the last house we lived in, so it's at least 3 years old. I've been cutting off chunks of it. Hold on. Oh, I got to hit the mute. Am I going to... Whoa, I had to sneeze, and I didn't want to sneeze into the mic. Whew. Yes. I have some kind of situation with that. I'll explain it in a minute. But yes, I've definitely utilized window screen for many things like this. Keep fish going out, keep fish going into overflows, all that kind of stuff. And stopping that with something that is just such a simple fix of, do you own some scissors? Do you own a little bit of glue? Do you own a couple of sticks or something? Just make something. You don't have to get too crazy with it. And as we know, Glenn is a craftsman, so his probably looks better than any of ours ever will. But we're not judging. We just need efficacy. That's the thing that we're looking for. We also... I know there's a lot of people that like to drain their tanks down and keep the level super low. I don't necessarily recommend that from my own experience, just because lower the water volume, the more variance you're going to get in your water parameters, and that feels like more of a thing to do in a room that has more consistency in temperature control. If we're talking about like Texas Andy was saying that he's got the AC in his garage now and stuff like that, then you could start to set the temperature exactly where it's going to be, the room where you want it to be, and keep it in a range. Nowadays, the heating and cooling is often being done now by the mini splits. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, but mini splits might be something that you could pretty readily put into a house nowadays and not be so encumbered by cutting all the holes and doing all that kind of crazy stuff. So that might be something worth doing. Raven Thomas says, same here, former cook, coffee, black, any temp. I don't like my coffee super hot. So I'm not any temp, and I do like some cream in my coffee because life's just too short. You know what I'm saying? If I'm out camping and rambling around the woods, or on like a hunting trip or a fishing trip or whatever, I'll deal with black coffee. But I'm even to the point now. There was certainly a point in time where I would just take instant coffee, drink it black, while out in the woods. But nowadays, I powdered creamer. Like I'll bring some powdered creamer with me, throw it in there, and just remember that I am a part of a bigger world than just being out there near some trees and being out in the woods, you know what I mean? I'm exhausted. The streets are lined with furniture again. This is getting insane. in New York. G-Bear, I do not know what that is in reference to, but I did read it. I'm not sure what's going on there. Not 100%. But yeah, I do like to take even, powdered creamer with me these days. Rumbust with a super chat, keeping track of my sober days with the Swedish kroner penny. 22.71 Swedish kroner pennies. That's how many days I've been sober. 2,271 days. I'm enjoying every single one of it, and I'm definitely sticking to it. That's something I'm going to keep doing today, and I'm going to keep doing it today as long as is possible. That's my thing. I'm just doing it today, and then I'm going to do it tomorrow. When tomorrow is today, I'll be sober for today, and that's just my thing, That's the way I really rationalized it in my mind, and it really was something that clicked, was like, if I just don't do any of that crazy nonsense right now, then I don't have to worry about it, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I don't have to worry about yesterday. I don't have to worry about 10 weeks from now. I don't have to worry if I'm going to live 50 years. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I'm alive today, and I'm just going to be doing that thing. You know what I mean? G-Bear says, I pick up trash. There's no people left in the buildings. Buildings are a third full now. Is that like the evictions? I'm guessing that's probably in relation to a lot of the evictions that are going on, which I can't tell you like the level of what I would consider this country to have gone downward in the last 40 years, basically, that people are being evicted during a national health crisis. And I'm guessing that does have to do with the evictions, because I think the stay and unemployment benefits and all that kind of stuff expires today. So I'm guessing it probably has something to do with that. I don't have anything specific to talk about in regards to that, but I do have to admit it's weird to me to see how dramatically downhill this country is going in what I feel, and I might be wrong here, but a lot of my assessment has to do with the over-individualism that has gone on in this country in regards to, when Ayn Rand became like super popular, it sort of has gotten into the attitude of Americans somehow that, the individual, whatever individual thought you have, is suddenly just so profoundly powerful that it overrules any other kind of like everyone else's thought process or whatnot. What is it? Irregardless, regardless of anybody else's evidence brought to the table. People have asked me if I'm a supporter of Black Lives Matter, and yeah, 100%, man. 100%. And, if you take some time to read some of the history of the United States and just how discriminatory the United States has been, it really starts to click. And one of the quick points that I could make to that would be that the economic disparity is just so out of this world. And I had posted this book. It's part of the book club. We'll probably do the book club. I'm guessing probably around the 20th of August, I think. No, hold on. I'm in the wrong calendar. Hold on. Let me see next month. I think it's the 15th. It might be the 15th. Or the 22nd. It's either the 15th or the 22nd. We're going to be doing the book club. It'll be a Saturday. But this is the book from the book club. Let me grab it right here. Oh, I know how to go get it fast. Whoa, what happened? I pushed the wrong button. Oh no. But as you start to look at some of the research and historical programs that have been done in the United States, over the last 100 years, and the reason that I say that that's pretty important is the last 100 years is what has really shaped, people my age, people older than me, people younger than me, but around my age, is that this has wildly affected the just average person's ability to be in a position of just having a normal life. Richard Rothstein, The Color of Law. I didn't want to say it wrong, but it's Richard Rothstein, The Color of Law. This really highlights just how deeply the systems were put in place in a way that really segregated families and families' ability to build equity within their family over 100 years. And one of the things, I got in a really heated argument with somebody a little while ago, and they were trying to tell me that, like, none of this stuff is real. It's all fake. That's all fake news, or whatever it is that they were trying to come at me with. And somebody else had overheard the conversation, and they were like, yeah, you guys got super upset, blah, blah, blah. And it's understandable because it's an understandable situation, right? To be upset about the people you live around having to deal with more of an issue than somebody, than we're dealing with. And the way that I was able to relate it to them was, if you could think back just as the average person in the U.S., and I'm not talking about upper middle class or whatever. I'm talking about just kind of the average family around. And I was like, there's a point in time where most of the people I knew that grew up with, and not like most, but this happened on numerous occasions, that's kind of why I thought of it, was somebody's grandma or grandpa had gotten to the point where they were driving a car that was out of date for an older person to be driving around, right? If you're 78 years old, you don't want to be driving a 15 or 20-year-old car that's kind of clunky. The AC doesn't really work. The lights don't work exactly right, 100%, that kind of stuff. Maybe your reaction times are a little bit slower. Maybe things are a little bit squirrelier for you. And you also are in an age where you do have the ability to, buy another car. Now, from my own personal experience, I can tell you one of my grandparents encountered this situation. My grandmother, who I learned a lot from. I loved her very much. This grandmother I was close to, my other one, not so much. But she was a wonderful woman. She worked very hard, and she saved her money. My grandfather was in World War II. My grandfather was in the Navy after World War II for a long time. So he had a pension. My grandmother was a chef that worked and eventually transitioned into becoming a lunch lady, like an old school lunch lady where they actually baked bread at the school and stuff like that. And they didn't just open the freezer door and thaw things out. She worked very hard. They never earned a ton of money or anything like that, but she saved her money like crazy. She could have bought a house. They said, we don't need a house. They bought a single wide trailer on the property that they owned. They put it there. My grandpa built a shop there, so he had space to do all of his stuff. And they were very thrifty people. That's just how they were. And it got to a point where my grandmother was driving this old Toyota, and we were like, look, you got to get rid of this Toyota. You cannot keep driving this car around. This is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. We all kind of pressured her as a family to be like, look, buy a new car. We need you to buy a new car. Just do it. She wanted to save all the money for the family. She was like, look, I'm not spending a bunch of money. I'm an old lady. I don't need a new car, blah, 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 right? And we eventually said, look, we need you to buy a new car. Just do it. It will work. And that's what we're going to do, right? And then her old car was there, right? And it was like, well, what am I going to do with my old car? And the reality was like, hey, you're going to spend like 500, or you're going to make like $500 selling this car. You're going to have to find all these people, blah, blah, blah. It was just going to be a ton of work. But the reality was like the work of selling the car wasn't worth doing the work to sell the car, right? So the car was actually just given away to a 16-year-old that would be their first car, right? And so you're talking about somebody who's young, who just has an opportunity to essentially get a free car from a situation that was just essentially inherited wealth, right? But you wouldn't call like a 1989 Honda Accord like wealth, right? But if you're talking about a 16-year-old that's going to hopefully take care of that car, turn 18, 17, start going to college, have a car to be able to drive to go to community college, to start to get your prereqs to go to college, right? Get all that stuff done and be able to drive around, work a part-time job, maybe work a full-time job and go to community college and that kind of stuff without having to dole out $1,500 or $2,000 for a car. And when we were discussing that, it just so happened that person was like, oh crap, that happened in my family. Like my cousin got a free car from my grandpa, blah, 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 right? And, you know, the reason that I posted that link and the reason that we're doing this book, The Color of Law, it hasn't been out that long, but it gives you an idea of how families were able to build equity over years and years and years through being able to buy a home, invest in a home, upgrade the home after 30 years, move to the next place, and so on and so forth over the years without this crazy like output of, you know, on rent money and all of that kind of stuff. And it really is, you know, it really is a situation that you start to think about it like, man, that's been going on for, you know, almost 100 years, that you're like, man, that's a lot, you know? And that's pretty wild. Trying to figure out what's going on with the chat. I just got on this like rambly long thing there. G Bear says we lost 23 people at work in March. We testing positive every day. It's bad if you have any ailments. They list. Yeah, it's, I see everybody's kind of talking about the COVID testing and, you know, how everything is may or may not be true or false or whatnot. And I think the reality is that I think the reality is that we've got like 350 million people in this country. From a federal level, they didn't implement testing, in my opinion, at a fast enough rate or a high enough rate to isolate where this virus was spreading around. And yes, this is a big country. There's a lot of people around. There's a lot going on. We were supposed to do the quarantine, and we were counting on those testing sites to be implemented, and we more or less keep finding out around the country that they're actually not testing and processing at a level where they should be. Every epidemiological study that I have found has said we're not testing, not based on the coronavirus, just on a virus that's moving around the rate that we're supposed to be testing at. We're just not hitting it. The quality of the test apparently is in question at this point, which is an issue, but I think that's also, falls in line with the, like, are we sure that somebody is coming out and saying that all these tests are bad? Do we know the veracity of that, right? Do we know if the person that is questioning whether or not these tests are true or false or positive or negative or spoiled in some way or whatnot, we need to find out if that is true, right? And go from there instead of just jumping on and being like, oh, well, this is all screwed up and that's all screwed up and da-da-da-da. Like, this whole situation is going to take time. It would have been possible for me at some point in time to say that, maybe this virus isn't real. But the unfortunate part is, like, now, at this point in time, I know multiple people that have gotten this virus and died. I know currently, right now, somebody close in my family who's 82 years old contracted the virus after refusing to take any of the precautions on purpose. Somebody purposefully, knowing the precautions, not following them out of stubbornness or whatever you want to call it. I think personally it's somebody being tricked by listening to the wrong news source and whatnot. But regardless of any of that, an acknowledged failure to take any of the precautions, hospitalized for 7 weeks, finally just tested the second negative. So in the ICU for weeks and weeks and weeks, in the recovery for weeks and weeks and weeks, now in the recovery. So that person's not going to make the news. That person will generally just fall into a statistical number. But the reality is, unable to walk now, being 82 years old, was frail with walking and stuff like that, but the loss of musculature is there, unable to walk now and likely to never walk again. Survived? Yes. Damaged? Yes. So we have increased the ability to take care of these people, have them survive, but that's not a minor transition in the quality of life. Like, that's a big deal. Had he been driving a car and crashed it, people would have been like, that's irresponsible and this is nuts. But we're at a point now where, what are you going to do? You just caught a virus. It's like, well, what do you mean, what are you going to do? Wash your hands and be sanitary. You're going to wear a mask when you're out in public near other people or in an enclosed space. And socially distance from people that are not in your close circle, like, that stuff doesn't have anything to do with anything, whether this is a conspiracy or not. That's just something implemented to not catch any other virus, a cold, the flu, whatever. Like, that applies to all of that stuff. And it's weird to see how many people have, like, run with it. They're like, oh, it says in the Bible, if you wear a mask, you're the devil. Like, what? It's just a gigantic leap, man, and I don't get it. I mean, as a fairly intelligent person who has studied psychology, I don't have a degree or anything like that. I do understand how people can fall into it. But I still, as a colloquialism, I would say I don't get it, right? Anyhow, Kane 1585 says, do you remember Melissa Updike? She used to watch you and Aquarium Co-op religiously, and she bought a lot of stuff. I mean, maybe the name sounds familiar, but I don't process anything for the Aquarium Co-op. I don't know who buys anything from the Aquarium Co-op. If I was anything for the Aquarium Co-op, I am a builder. I build the systems. I help assemble things. I build the tank racks and the systems and those kinds of stuff. I've built ponds for them. I've built a bunch of stuff, and I am 100% appreciative of being a part of the Aquarium Co-op family. But I don't really know anybody from there. I don't know. Kane says she used to watch you paint, draw. And if I remember correctly, she might have bought a painting from you. Yeah, I don't. The name sort of rings a bell or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But as Wesley says, it's always sad that people come to their senses only after something happens to them, and that would be the family member is that they're like, oh, wait, this is real the whole time? Oh, wait, what? Oh, no, we're sick. And, like after the fact. And it's like, I don't know when we got to a point where we just don't trust, like, sane advice in regards to what's really going on in regards to science and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how we got to that point. I don't know how, I find it difficult to be like, I don't know how we got to that point. Like, even just this morning, I saw, because people wonder why, like, I see a lot of this stuff, and I have a ton of conservative shoot 'em up, wild boy, Republican, whatever you want to call them, friends, and it's a shame sometimes when I see some of the stuff that they spread around, and like this morning, I saw. There's a picture of Anthony Fauci after he threw out the first pitch, right? And they're up in the stands, and he's got his mask down because he's sitting with, like, his wife. He's sitting with the people that he, like, lives with, basically, right? They're the people in his little group, and there's nobody else in the stands, and people are like, well, see, Anthony Fauci took his mask off while he was watching a baseball game while he was, like, 200 feet away from anybody else. And, like, even that guy's advice has literally been, if you're outside away from people, there's really no reason to wear a mask. Why would you? You're just outside walking around in some grass? Like, no one's saying wear a mask there. But you walk all the way to the Home Depot, right? Then you go in the doors. Now you're in an enclosed space near people, like, trying to navigate through. You put on a mask so you're not, like, getting your respiratory crap all over people, And that's just, you just do some basic stuff. Like, you don't lick doorknobs, man. Like, what? I'm sorry, if somebody came out and said, like, stop licking doorknobs, there'd be this weird group of people that would come out and swear that they're, you're inflicting on their constitutional rights to be a weird nutbag, and you're like, what's going on? Texas Andy says, I still haven't heard anyone I know have it, and no one I know has, but it does not mean it isn't real. I still wear a mask and take precaution. Why risk it? That's dumb. Yeah, and, the reality is, like, with how screwed up our health system is, our healthcare system is, like, I would say that, like, $5 worth of a mask and, washing your hands and not doing goofy stuff while you're out in public is way easier than paying a $12,000 hospital bill. You know what I mean? Pleco Guy says, why don't you and Corey do streams together anymore? It's basically, put it this way. I love the Real Fish Talk. I think we had a great time doing it. We did 50 episodes of it. We had to make an assessment at the end of doing 50 videos whether or not the amount of time we were investing into what is a job Like, this is my job right now. Like, all day today, I'm going to be working on YouTube stuff. Let me give you guys kind of a breakdown of what my day looks like. So this morning, took care of my daughter, then moved on to taking some pictures. Then I had to drill some more these plastic racks. Then what else? I'm trying to remember what else I did. Then I haven't done a water change yet, but I have to do water changes. I have to take some video. Oh, I set up a time lapse on an aquarium that I've been working on, doing a time lapse every single day for Aquarium Co-op. I have a bunch of those plants. I have a bunch of plants from the Aquarium Co-op. I set up a tank. I filmed it all, and I'm doing a time lapse every single day up until I hit like the 60-day mark, and then I'm going to make a video about how to transition your plants and stuff from Aquarium Co-op. So, but that's also YouTube stuff. I also need to take photography stills later. I need to edit some stuff. I need to do some voiceover. There's just like a ton of stuff. All this stuff is my job. And the Real Fish Talk, we assumed would be either a boom or a bust, right? And so we were like, look, we're going to do a bunch of episodes. We didn't start it out and say we're going to do 50 episodes and that's going to be the thing. We basically got to 40 episodes and we were like, look, let's do the next 10 and do an assessment at that point and see what's up. And we assumed that if we hit that 50 episode mark, we would have enough analytics to figure out if, hey, this is one of the days out of the week that we do this part of our job, right? This part of we do a YouTube video, we do podcasts, we record those podcasts, we send them out that are hopefully entertaining and somewhat educational and spreading the word about things that we're doing fish tank wise and all that kind of stuff. And the reality was we looked at the analytics and we were losing money. So not only did Corey have to pay Jimmy to be editing and run the live stream and all that kind of stuff, he also had to pay himself because he works for his company, right? But he's also not doing work for his company specifically. I had to drive, it's like 65 miles to get up to Corey's place from my place. So 130 miles round trip. That obviously takes time. Then the couple hours to do it. It was taking a whole entire day to do a podcast. So we really just had to like figure out all of that stuff. And logistically speaking, it was costing a lot of money to do that show, and it wasn't growing. If there was a point, if we had hit video 50 and the analytics looked like this, like it started out really low and it was on a trajectory that it was going up, like, man, maybe we'd be able to keep doing this because maybe we're going to grow this project. And we go, instead of, and this is just a random number. I don't have specific numbers anymore because it was a long time ago that we stopped doing it. But if we're like let's say we're losing $300 a day, but the trajectory says that in a month we'll be losing $250 and then $200 and then $150 and then $100 and then $50 and then we'd start profiting and start moving into that profiting zone. Well, that's basically how you run a business, to at least have a projection and go like, all right, where are we going projection wise? How much are we putting into the business? How much are we taking out from the business? That's all stuff that has to you have to analyze it. You have to write it down and really figure out what it is that you're doing. And our chart looked like this. It went whoop and went up. And then it was the exact same people watching it over that whole 50 episode stretch, right? Whereas like, this isn't going up. It's not going down, but it's just going like this. It's just going flat. And you're like, the projection says we either have to spend less or put less into it. We have to put less into it and continue to take the same amount out, which I don't know how anybody's going to do that. Like, what are you going to do? Make less than $0 doing a thing? So that's just the reality of it, man. I would love us to be able to do a podcast thing where we could get on and like kind of ramble about stuff and have that opportunity to continue to do that. We really tested the waters to see if we could do, and it wasn't like we did one episode and then it was like, oh, that sucks, never mind, let's do something else. We really put our time in to see what we could do. Jimmy put in a lot of time. Corey put in a lot of time and energy and money, and we built the Real Fish Talk studio and all that kind of stuff. And Corey's doing cool projects in there right now with ponds, and which I think is rad. So it's like, look, it's not a wasted space. It's just doing a different thing now. So that's all stuff that it just is what it is. Like at this point, it's just a history thing. It's almost just like a history exam of what's up right now. I don't have a crystal ball. Oh, hold on. Let me check. Oh, my crystal ball has little. I can't say anything other than this. This looks like my crystal ball has nipples, but the crystal ball has suction cups. So if you're seeing nipples, I don't know what to tell. He has like frog eyes or something now. I don't know. Let's take the suction cups off. I'm gonna get myself into trouble. I'll get banned from YouTube for talking about suction cup nipples, I guess. I don't know. Okay, I do have a crystal ball, but I just don't see the future whenever I look into it. I occasionally have suction cups stuck to it. So that's just pretty much all its use. And if I had a crystal ball that saw the future, I would heavily invest in the whatever stock was going to do a big thing. Like as we turned out today, Kodak apparently got a $765 million contract to start producing hydroxychloroquine. Kodak, the the Polaroid film company, they're making hydroxychloroquine. They got $765 million to start producing a medicine, I guess. I don't know what they know about producing medicines or not, but that's a lot of money. And their stock went from like 50 cents to like $12 or something. I don't know. I seriously want to look it up right now because it's just a real kick in the pants. Kodak stock. Holy crap. Oh my god. All right, let me get 5 days. I got to go back 5 days. Oh lord. Nope, it went from $2.42. Well, let's see. So let's go back 5 days. $2.15 on Monday, July 27th. Wednesday, July 29th, it jumped to $43.45. Does anybody... I don't understand. Like, people see a conspiracy in whether or not a virus that exists, but they don't see a conspiracy in a former Polaroid camera company getting $750 million to produce a medicine, and their stock goes from $2 to $43. Now, all of a sudden has dropped down, or slowly dropped back down to $22 as of, I guess there's an hour till closing or something like that. But you want to find a conspiracy, go find who bought the stock on Monday. Because Tuesday it took a slight jump. Wednesday it went all the way up to this monumental. I mean, Tuesday it went from $2 to $11. So that is a significant jump. But if you were looking for a conspiracy, like that's where you'd want to look for your conspiracy. Like who was involved in that move, right? Like who was involved in that, and you'll be able to figure it out. But there's nothing zesty about that. There's nothing zesty about what was going on there. There's nothing sexy, about realizing that these people are just moving around imaginary numbers and making billions of dollars from imaginary money, right? Which is why I have consistently argued with people that unless capitalism is highly regulated, for the benefit of the large population, this kind of crazy screwball stuff starts happening. And when money makes money, when you have the ability to have money and it just produce more money, this kind of stuff happens. Kodak had a pump when they said they were getting into cryptocurrency too. Yeah, so they're, like, is this not weird? Is it not weird? I don't know. I feel like if you delved in there, you'd probably find some weirdness. KG Cichlids is here. What's up, my dude? Oh, who's blowing me up over here? Oh, I have something that's beeping at me. What's beeping at me? Oh, crap. I left my speakers on? Yep. Oopsie doopsie. Left my speakers on. Who's blowing me up? Oh, it's my boy. Oh, it's Dennis. No worries. Okay. Sorry, I was like, what? There's an alert over there, and it bleeped at me super loud. And I got scared, so I had to look at it. All right. Let's see what's going on. That's dope. I just had one of my pair of Apistos throw eggs, and 2 different guppies had babies this week, and that's a good feeling. That is a good feeling. I'm going to tell you something. In the fish keeping, if you're keeping fish and you get your fish to breed, there just really isn't much better than that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if there's a marker that says, yeah. DM Penfolds is secretly a fan of David Bowie and contact juggling. I am a public fan. I'm not secretly a fan of David Bowie. I'm publicly a huge fan of David Bowie. I love that guy. I mean, yeah. I mean, he seemed to be an awesome dude as a person, and I definitely respected his stance on most things, ethically, societally. He had a great take on a lot of stuff. Great artist. His music was fantastic. I didn't like all of his music. Some of it was too out there for even me. Even me, a guy who listens to music that's just people hitting hammers with stuff or hitting stuff with hammers and capturing the sound and turning it into a song. Some of the stuff's just out there, and I'm like, I just didn't jive on it. But yeah, publicly a fan of David Bowie. I love The Labyrinth. If you don't like The Labyrinth movie, I don't know if we could have a deep friendship. You know what I mean? Like if you're not familiar with the Bog of Eternal Stench, it would be difficult for us to communicate on a friendly basis. You know what I'm saying? Just as friends. Also, like The Princess Bride, like that's a good one. Like you just got to be in there. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm into, that kind of stuff. I like it. I like fantasy stuff though. That's for sure. 'Cause I am a super dork. Fish Tank Barn with a $5 super chat says, "Stop licking doorknobs fund." All right, I like it. I like the $5 stop licking doorknobs. Kane 1585 says she watched you paint a gorgeous green blue fish. She is subscribed to you but is no longer with us. That is really unfortunate to hear, man. I'm really sorry for that. That is sad. I don't I never like getting that news. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't ever like getting that news. That's awful and sad to hear. I hope, I hope it was. I don't know. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to express. Like, I hope somebody died in a nice way. I don't know. Is there a way to die nicely? I mean, I guess if you just go to sleep and not wake up, I guess that's probably everybody's idea of passing away nicely. But it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, that's for sure. So I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know exactly what happened or what was going on, but yeah, I mean, let me just say this. I miss a lot of people off of the internet, man. I've made a lot of friends off the internet. I've rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I've had a lot of people that sent me all sorts of crazy, psychotic messages to the people that have sent me the "You Changed My Life" messages. I'm going to be honest when I say I like getting the "You Changed My Life" messages. They are kind of few and far between when you, in reality, you know, but it definitely, I've made a lot of friends on the internet. I've lost a lot of friends on the internet. I miss them all. I miss the good ones. But that's the way that life goes, man. And there just isn't much that I can do about that as just an individual person. People come, people go, and I have to be accepting of that stuff. And, I look at it in the same way as, like, let's say you date a girl and, or a guy, or you date a person, whatever. I don't know. I do whatever you like. I've basically dated women, so that's kind of my thing. Let's say you date a woman, you date for 6 months, things are going great, and then you kind of realize, like, maybe this isn't a good fit, maybe this doesn't work out, blah, 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 and you kind of part ways. And maybe it's not the healthiest environment to, like, spend time together after that, because you're, like not in a headspace where you could rationalize them being a friend, and you end up spending not really talking to them for like 3 years, 4 years, or something like that. But then you come back to it and you realize, like, oh man, this is a really good friend of mine. I have a fantastic friend that is just like that, but that whole time in between, like, you miss that person. That person just doesn't exist, sort of, and you're like, man, that sucks. I've kind of had to rationalize it that way because I've had a lot of people I've known die, and the list is just far too long. But the unfortunate thing is that list never gets shorter. Unfortunately, that list just continues to get longer and longer. And it kind of, you just kind of have to, like, realize it's a part of life and kind of learn to accept it. And I hope Melissa, I'm just hoping I said the right name there. That would suck if I didn't. I think it was Melissa, right? Yeah, Melissa. I hope that Melissa passed away and it's okay, and I hope her family's okay and everybody's taken care of. And that's realistically, from the bottom of my heart, I want everybody to have a good life. That's my thing, man. That's really my thing. And most of my beliefs and the, sitting down to analyze legislation, sitting down to talk about history, sitting down to read about history, to learn about things that have come on, to read analytical studies of things that are happening. Just a little while ago, somebody was trying to tell me that the coronavirus thing was not real. And I said, well, have you looked up the current mortality rate of the United States? And they said, no, I haven't looked that up. And the weird thing is that this was like a month ago, or maybe even longer than that. It might have been 2 months ago. I don't have exact timeline. I'm kind of just recapping something that I didn't prep to talk about. But, and the mortality rate was at 108%, which it's not impossible that our mortality rate would be that high. 100% would be normal. 108%, generally speaking, means there's some aberration going on, right? Something is happening in order for that to be happening, right? And we're also talking about where a lot of the country spent a 3-month period. This is like through half of the year, basically, but like a 3-month period that, like, people were staying home, not doing extra stuff. They weren't traveling. They weren't, if you looked out at the freeway, there just wasn't the traffic jams of all the crazy people going to and from and all that kind of stuff, and everybody being pretty careful. And so you kind of add those two things together and you go like, oh crap, maybe those two things together mean that something really is going on. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm willing to sit down and kind of analyze this kind of stuff. Learning about property law, learning about how mortgages really function, learning about how corporations utilize money against mortgages to purchase properties, to change the rent in an area, and then sell off a property without actually having paid into anything because they loaned the money to themselves and they backloaded the loan, that the payments that they would make wouldn't be interest payments. They'd be on the back end of the loan. Just stuff like that that's going on because I am motivated to try and help people at least have a better life, right? That's my motivation. That's literally my motivation is humanity. Like, I don't really have, I mean, I have interests and I'm interested in a lot of stuff and everything. And that's for sure, like, stuff that I'm doing and working on and everything. But my motivation is to try and help humanity be better, right? So I understand that was a weird, rambling, nonsensical thing. So let's bust into the chat here and see what's going on. Texas Andy said, as you wish to my ex, and found out she didn't know about the Princess Bride, hints as to why she's now my ex. Yeah, I don't think I could have somebody in my life like that. That wouldn't work for me. It might work for somebody else. Wouldn't work for me. Not personally. Elijah Guillame with a $20 super chat with the for your time thumbs up. Elijah, thank you very much, man. That's some serious support, dude. Not only are you a member on the channel, but that $20 super chat, dude, that's robust. That's robust, my guy. And I appreciate it. I really do. Elijah Guillame with a follow-up says, David Bowie arrested in Rochester as well, home of Kodak. Oh, my God. Yeah, that is very interesting. That is very interesting. That's a weird coincidence that you could easily write like the worst news story ever about that too, you know? It could be like, oh, the conspiracy is David Bowie was arrested in Rochester, and that's where Kodak is, clearly the hydroxychloroquine central of the world. Yeah. Chandra Sakar, what's up? Good to see you. Says, do you cap Fluval stratum? No, that would be counterproductive. That would generally be counterproductive with Fluval stratum. I mean, you could put something on it to aesthetically kind of change its look or whatever. I personally wouldn't, but that's something that you could consider if you want to invest a little bit in a different aesthetic. I personally don't do that. I just grow plants in it. It makes it look different because the plants grow in there, and it looks different than say the substrate, because plants look different than substrate, right? I think, as far as my brain goes, I think that's where it ends up landing, right? If plants grow in substrate, you'll see the plants, and the plants look different than substrate. Yeah, I think that's totally like a normal thing that regular humans would say, right? Just walking around. They would just be walking around saying stuff like that. That's just a nice comment from Chandra. Says, good to see you. I love what you do, and you are a nice person. I am a mixture of nice and not nice. I will admit that. I've done a lot of less than nice things in my life, mostly justified almost every time. As far as the justice system goes, more vindications than not vindications. How about that? We'll put it that way. Mostly justified, but I've also done a bunch of stupid crap that I regret and have done my best to make amends for. So it is what it is. I feel like after talking about those analytics earlier, I feel like I'm more in the upward slope. You know what I'm saying? I'm not leveled out. I'm upward, ever forward, ever upward. You know what I mean? Furry Pal Grover says, oh no, I already read that. I just like saying Furry Pal Grover because that's hilarious. I think everybody needs more furry pals in their lives, right? Like, why not? It's not something I would want to get involved in personally, but I feel like it's reasonable to have some friends that are into other things than you are, right? Expand your horizons and just not have to get involved. You could just be peripherally like, what's that all about? I think is a reasonable thing to do. Let's see here. Mike Kansas says same here, man. Inventory made me more humble than I was before. Yeah, for sure. If you guys aren't familiar with recovery and what you do in recovery, because I think a lot of people are a little bit confused. Like, they think you just go to meetings and sit around in a room and just talk, which that is part of it, because that is basically free therapy. You know, it's basically free group therapy where you can go in an open, safe space, right? To have a conversation about the things that you're talking about, to share with the group, positives, negatives, whatever it is that you want. That's a big part of it, but there's the inventory step. I think I'm going to say the wrong one, and people are going to be like, I'm so dumb. But step 4, whatever. I could go look it up, but whatever. For those of you people that aren't in recovery, it doesn't really matter. But there is step work that you have to do a self-inventory about the things that you're feeling bad about. And, of course, mine was a gigantic way, tons and tons and tons of stuff. And my first sponsor, which is why he was no longer my sponsor anymore, he was like, this is too much stuff. Don't write all this stuff down. And at that moment, he was like, we don't have time to deal with all this stuff. At that moment, I knew this is the wrong sponsor for me, among other reasons, but that was the main focus reason as to why, like, I was like, I got to go find a different sponsor that actually has time. And for lack of a better way to put it, gave a shit about me, you know? So I actually changed sponsors, and I would recommend to anybody out there, if you are getting into recovery and you go to a meeting and you're like uncomfortable, getting a weird vibe, go to a different meeting. If you find a sponsor and it's not working out, readily fire them and get a different sponsor, because it's an unpaid position, and if it's not a relationship that's working for you, just say, never mind, I don't want you to be my sponsor anymore, and no, I don't want to tell you why if it's something that you don't want to talk about or whatever. Get a new sponsor. There's tons of people in recovery that will sponsor you, and if that next one doesn't work, find the next one. If that next one doesn't work, find the next one. But yeah, when you really go through your inventory and really start to think about all of the weird nonsense you've been involved in your life, and things that you either regret or want to make better for, for me, it was a very lengthy process that I really worked. I worked a lot on. I documented a lot of stuff, and then I burnt it so people wouldn't find it on accident. But that's kind of one of the fun things about analog. You know, you go analog, you write it down, you just burn it, put it in a campfire, and it's gone. But it definitely is a big part of the process. And I just realized from Chandra Sakar's question here in the chat that I think you sent me a message, or somebody else sent me a message, and I may have completely flaked on answering something. Yep. No. Not on Discord. I do have messages from Chandra on Discord. Crap. Somebody asked me about aquarium photography. And the low-cost aquarium photography, like if you're wanting to do video or even just simple stills, I am all for the DJI Osmo Action, which Hold on. Osmo Action. Action. Some people like the GoPro camera. I prefer the DJI Osmo Action. It's a personal preference. I've used them both. I like the DJI more, but it really doesn't matter. Whatever it is you want to do whatever you want to do. Here's a link to it. Take you to the Amazon link. Beware. You get charged for it, blah, blah, blah. FTC regulation says I have to tell you that I'm an affiliate, so yeah. Anyhow, I like the DJI Osmo Action. It does look like a GoPro. It's a little camera. It's waterproof out the box, right? Up to, it says 36 feet. I don't know what you're doing. You have a fish tank that's 30 feet deep. Get somebody else to film it for you. Stop doing it yourself. Anyhow, go out the box. It's waterproof, water resistant, whatever you want to call it. Up to 30 feet. It's $250. It takes the same SD card that goes in your phone, so that's a cross-compatible thing that you could use if you want or not. The software on it works great. It shoots 4K. It goes underwater. You can shoot still images with it if you want, but it also shoots video. You can record video. You could start to make YouTube videos with this camera. I use this camera for YouTube videos. It works great. It shoots in log format, so you can actually grade the video later. You can change the colors and the contrast and all that stuff in software that you would have to buy separately, blah, blah, blah. But it takes stills. It does all that stuff. It's $250. That's great. Now, if you want to start getting into like cameras I use, cameras I don't use, there's a reality that I can say with 100% assurity, if you buy a reasonably priced mirrorless digital photo camera, you can get good results out of it. I don't care if it's a Pentax or a Nikon or a Canon or a Sony or a whatever. You don't need a super fancy camera to shoot images of fish. Shooting images of fish is all about preparation, making sure that there's no reflection in the aquarium glass, right? Next time you walk up to your aquarium, if there's a bunch of light shining at your aquarium, walk up to it and realize there's a reflection in the glass. You need to eliminate all of that outside light that will be reflecting your image off of the glass of the tank. Once you do that, now you need to set up your camera in somewhere stable so that you could set it up to the aquarium. Now it's a waiting game. That's 100% what it's going to be 90% of the time, right? Just like whatever the cologne from Anchorman was. 100% of the time, 90% of the time, it's going to be a waiting game, right? But most of the time, you're going to be waiting to get the fish into frame, so you're going to be able to, take an image of it. Oh my God, Stuff and Stuff just showed up and said, have you ever thought of doing a nano tank? I started doing YouTube with only nano tanks, by the way. So like 9 or 10 years ago when I started doing YouTube, whenever the hell that was, 2008 or something, I had rows and rows of nano tanks in my old apartment when I lived in the bottom floor of this crappy apartment. And yes, I've done tons of nano tanks. I currently have outdoor nano tanks that I did. It's the aquarium to terrarium videos that really didn't do well at all on the channel. So I don't know if I'm going to do more of those videos just because they just got so terribly, they got such terrible response that it's not like terrible response, but it's just like nobody really got all that enthusiastic about those tanks. So, you know, it just really is one of those things that I don't know if I'm going to do those again. So I'm probably thinking about what I want to do as far as like nano tanks or not nano tanks or whatever, you know, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, I have tons of experience doing nano tanks and all that stuff. So back to the taking pictures. That's basically like the legwork is setting up the camera, eliminating all of the background light that is going to be coming in there, and waiting to be able to get the shot. That's basically what it boils down to. There really isn't like that much other advice that I could give that is useful. You know what I mean? Like if I start talking about f-stop, if I start talking about ISO, if I start talking about autofocus, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, it's totally useless, and it'll be one ear out, in one ear, out the other, realistically, to most people. And you know, maybe someday I'll do a photography video on YouTube of like how to do it. I wouldn't really consider myself to even be that good at fish photography anyhow. So maybe I'll do a video on it, but it seems doubtful. I mean, realistically, I think it realistically seems doubtful, mainly because you know, I'm a Canon shooter, so you know, Canon cameras is what I use. So every person that shoots Sony is going to be like, oh, I don't care about this guy. It's just weird fan club nonsense. Like if you drive a Ford, everyone that drives Chevy acts like a dick to you for some reason. If you drive a Toyota, then people are, you know what I'm saying? Like if you make videos about Toyotas, you got to deal with all these people that don't like Toyota. You know, it's just weird. And I know from like forums that I'm on, that are like, I'm on forums that are specifically Canon oriented forums where you're only supposed to be doing Canon camera talk there. And we get Sony fanboys that lose their minds, Nikon guys that lose their minds. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the main three, you know, that are arguing with each other all the time. And I wouldn't consider myself a good enough photographer to be doing a photography channel. So I don't really think that like that's something that I just want to branch off into, being like, oh, well, here's these like me teaching you how to use a camera sort of videos. You know what I mean? Like I'm happy to talk about like what I use or what I think is a good way to go about it, like on the live stream or whatever. But I don't think I'll ever make a edited video about it, mainly just because I don't think it would ever feel like it was done. I would always feel like there was an issue with it that was not right, and I'd constantly be going back to like figure out if it was legit correct or not, and it would just be this endless, which is just endless craziness, you know. Aquarium Co-op says, I'm on team whatever gets it's done, which is often team cell phone. Yeah, I mean, Corey's always using a cell phone, which is great. Like, I literally have an Osmo right here. So, like, here's the problem. Like, I don't like to use my cell phone because I'm generally using my cell phone for other stuff. So, this clamp that I have on here is an adjustable clamp, right? So, this moves all around, and then you tighten it down like this, right? And it will stay stable. It has the camera on the top in this little cage dealy, and then there's a clamp on the bottom, so I can clamp this camera to anything that fits in these jaws, right? A 2x4, a fence post, a table, whatever, and I can literally just hit the record button, and it's recording now. And I can go like this. Oh, hold on. Oh, I don't know if I can. Oh, yeah, you can swap the screen while it's recording now. So you guys can hopefully see that. There we go. It's focusing now. So this has a front-facing screen, so I can literally just attach this to something and then be filming, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's really, the clamp is like $15 or something and whatnot, but I'm always using my phone for whatever, and so I find that this is the best for like shooting fish stuff, you know what I mean? And it does stills. You can take photos with it. One of the things I find to be like really fun is to set the time lapse. So like put it on the clamp in a tank, like aim it horizontally and set the time lapse to just go off like every 20 seconds or something. And you're literally just like, we'll see what happens, right? And sometimes you get these like really interesting photos of like a fish that's just hanging around, you know, like, oh, I'm just hanging around over here. Now, it's not something I would recommend for everyday average people to even bother doing that, because going through all of the photos is just time consuming for the average person. Now, me, I can just scroll through them really quickly on my computer and then realize that they all like, oh, these all suck, and just delete them, you know. James Shepard says, just hopping in to say hi and hope all is well with everyone. Can't stop but catch up with everybody next week. Well, thanks, James. I very much appreciate it. It's always nice to have people stop by and they're like, hey, man, I stopped by. I'm like, that's legit. Rumbus says Hasselblad for the win, and I can't do that. That wouldn't happen. You're talking about like a Hasselblad, like, let me see, how much is a current Hasselblad? Hasselblad camera price. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, they're let's see, this one's $50,000. That would never happen. I wouldn't do that ever. Oh, this one's marked down to $33,000. Woo, man, what a screaming deal. Super used too, and old. Rad. Super old version that's used for $33,000. Ugh. So their like stills camera is $8,000, and you can't buy a lens for it for less than $2,000. Cool. Not cool to me, realistically. Yeah. See the X1D50C. I remember there was a review on this. So this is basically as good as my Canon EOS R, right? I think. I mean, it has like higher megapixel, or maybe not, or whatever. I don't really remember the specifics, but I remember, 26 bits, color depth, blah, blah, blah. What is this is basically their version of the EOS R. Yeah, it has a 50 megapixel camera. Like, okay, but that doesn't really do much for, 30 megapixel to 50 megapixel. It's like, okay. Unless you're making the prints like the size of a billboard, it's really not going to do anything. But also a billboard's going to be viewed from really far away, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be that crisp, right? Because you're going to look at a billboard from like 2,000 feet away, then 1,500 feet away, then 1,000 feet away, then 500 feet away as you're driving in a car super fast, right? So not really that important. And this camera new is $9,000 plus tax, so that'll put it right in the $10,000 range after tax. 10% tax, $900 puts it, you save $100, from a 10 grand budget. And honestly, if my budget was 10 grand, I would not spend it in that way. I wouldn't spend it in that manner. And if there's a potential 10 grand sponsor out there, let me know. I won't be irresponsible with that 10 grand. Just so you know, I won't just go out and buy a Hasselblad camera and take some stills up in the mountains with it. Yeah, Rumbus says it's a shame that their digital offerings are a tad bit expensive. Everything Hasselblad is crazy expensive. As most people would explain it in the photography group industry, people that I'm not involved in, but I just hear them talk, they would say that's for like suburban dentists to buy it and then just say like you have an expensive thing. Like they drive a super $200,000 car, right? To work and back. They just drive it as a commuter so that people think that they're cool, which I'm like, I personally would rather have a rebuilt 96 4Runner with like a brand new motor in it and new brakes and new steering and new air and stuff like that. I would much rather have like a 96 Toyota 4Runner or, man, one truck that I almost bought. Let me see what year that was. I think it was a 64. 1964 J3000. Oh, it's a J300. Yeah, 64. Is that right? Let me see. 1964 Jeep Gladiator. Oh, it's a J300. It's not a J3000. It's the Jeep Gladiator J300. And I'm sad I never bought this Jeep, but like if I had 10 grand, I would go find a Jeep like this pickup truck for a 64 that's like nicely fixed up and running real good. But I wouldn't spend it on like a Porsche, like a new Porsche or something like that. Like that would never happen. I wouldn't do that. But I did almost buy this truck at one point in time. Literally had cash in hand and decided. I basically decided. Well, I didn't have cash in hand. I had the cash. I talked to the guy. We'd agreed on a price, and I ended up loaning the money to a friend of mine instead. And lo and behold, never really got that back. So, that's like $3,000 out in the ether somewhere, but what are you going to do? There ain't much you can do about that. You can't go back. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times Cher sings that song. You can't turn back time. If I could find a way. Oh, man, it is 1 hour and 40 minutes in. So I think that's going to be it for today. We got to give a big shout out to all of our super chats for the day because we had 3 of them. So it's going to be pretty easy. Analytics dropped out for looks like about a 20-minute period. So I wonder if I was like not broadcasting through there. Who knows? Anyhow. Let's go over here and find the viewer activity tab. No new members today. Okay, no new members on a Friday. End of the month and everything. We tried to do a membership drive around here. It didn't work because I didn't even say we were doing a membership drive, so whatevs. Check out the Lennart Nilsson's cam work in The Miracle of Life. Oh man, am I trusting you? Am I trusting you here? Let's see. Search Google. Oh, Swedish photographer died in 2017. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've definitely seen some of this photography, but I don't know. That might be weird for some people to deal with. Anyhow, my timer is going off. Time to get back to work on not this job, but a different job. I got to go build some more stuff because that's life. That's life. Wouldn't you know it? Anyhow, shout out to Rumbust, the Fish Tank Barn, and Elijah Guillaume for your super chats today. Very much appreciate it. Helps keep the lights on around here. And shout out to all of our members, patronizers, all of those things, and I will talk to you guys on Monday. It's going to be Monday, I think. Monday. Yeah, I think it's Monday. Paula Kreinberg says, if I had 10 grand, I would build a solar greenhouse. Makes sense. Why not? I'm probably going to build one anyhow, even though I don't have 10 grand. Why would I? Why would I have 10 grand? I don't have that kind of money around here. We don't have it lying around.